go do a paycheck checkup on the IRS website and file a new W-4 with your employer to adjust your level of withholding so it's accurate or roughly accurate for the year. In other words, what you're going to do now is take 15 minutes now to prevent a whole bunch of pain on tax day. Welcome to the Sunlight Podcast. In this show, we're talking about taxes, money, and careers for self-employed people who have a big vision for changing the world with their work. I'm your host, Hannah Cole, artist, tax pro, and the founder of Sunlight Tax. If you're a creative or soul-centered entrepreneur or wellness practitioner who wants to grow your business sustainably, manage your taxes, and build a stash of fuck you money so you can control your time and have a bigger impact with your work, you are in the right place. Hello, welcome. So here we are in the month of August, and I hope you are relaxing and doing fun things and enjoying the beauty of summer. Hopefully you're not dying of heat in one of the many overheated parts of the country right now. I want to come in and give you a short and sweet episode about something practical, something that you can do while you have just 15 minutes, okay? So this is one of my very favorite tools that is available at the IRS website, and it is the Paycheck Checkup. So what this is basically, if you have a day job, right? If you are an employee, and so I say this, I know, of course, most of you are self-employed. That's who I'm generally talking to. But a lot of times when you're self-employed, you are still married, filing jointly with someone who's an employee, or you yourself may have both 1099 income and W-2 income. In other words, freelance income and employee income at the same time. And so I want you to take a moment at this time of year, because we're just past the halfway point of the year. So there are still a substantial number of months left for you to make an adjustment of your withholding on your paycheck so that you can have the right amount or a more appropriate amount of your taxes withheld throughout the year with every paycheck. Okay, so what you do in order to adjust the taxes that are withheld on your paycheck when you're an employee, when you're paid on a W-2, is you fill out a form at the IRS website, and the form is called a W-4. You don't submit it to the IRS, you submit it to your employer. And by law, your employer must enact what you request on that W-4. So you are the one with control over the level of tax withholding that your employer takes out of each of your paychecks. Okay, I want you to know that. Now, why would that be, right? Medicare and Social Security, those amounts are taken out automatically and you get no say and you don't do anything to adjust those amounts. When you're an employee, your employer is always withholding the correct amount. Why is that? That's because your employer knows what the right amount is. That's a calculation they can make on their own. And so they do. And in fact, they're required by law too. So nobody can change that. So 7.65% of your pay when you're an employee is taken out of every paycheck as you go. And that's going to pay into your Medicare and Social Security account. Okay. So that's always correct when you're an employee. Now, if you're self-employed and on your self-employment income, you are meant to be setting aside your self-employment tax to pay for your Medicare and Social Security. And that amount is twice as high as when you're an employee, because you're not just an employee when you're self-employed, you're also the employer. So you have both halves to pay. So that's 7.65% of your profit as the employee in your self-employment, but also 7.65% of your profit as the boss. Okay. Now, before you go thinking like, oh my God, that's so unfair, I want to remind you, self-employed people get to take deductions. We get the boss benefits because of having to pay the boss half of Medicare and Social Security. So there's two sides to that coin. There's a pro and a con, a benefit and a responsibility. Okay. So Social Security and Medicare is usually well caught up with every paycheck when you're paid as an employee. However, your federal income tax rate, that is not something your employer can know about. So because your income tax rate is not fixed and determined by your pay at that job. Your federal income tax rate is dependent on your entire tax picture. So that includes all sources of income across your entire taxable household. In other words, if you're married to somebody making $500,000 per year, your tax rate is going to be at the upper level of income tax rates in the US. And your boss doesn't have any insight into that, nor do you have any obligation to tell them. On the other side of that, you might have 6 dependents and your W-2 may be your only source of income. That would put you in likely the lowest tax bracket, which for the record is 0. In other words, you would not pay income tax. So this all depends, right? How many different sources of income you have, how much income that is. If you are married to someone and file jointly with somebody who has a big amount of income, these all will affect your tax rate. So the reason that I want to walk you through doing a paycheck checkup is because a lot of times things happen in the middle of the year and you forget like, oh, I bought a house. I should file a new W-4. I got married. I should file a new W-4. I got divorced. I should file a new W-4. When you have a big change in life circumstance, you should adjust your tax withholding. Most of us, when we buy a new house or get married, we're thinking about a lot of other stuff, right? So I just want to be that little voice to be like, hey, take 15 minutes and change your withholding. Because what you don't want to have happen is for you to keep your withholding where it was before, go through some big change in circumstance, and then have radically the wrong amount of taxes withheld and suddenly get hit with a big old tax bill you didn't realize was coming. That's what pain I'm trying to avoid for you, okay? So this episode today is about how you can take 15 minutes out of your life, go do a paycheck checkup on the IRS website, and file a new W-4 with your employer to adjust your level of withholding so it's accurate or roughly accurate for the year. In other words, what you're going to do now is take 15 minutes now to prevent a whole bunch of pain on tax day. Okay. All right. So here's how we're going to do it. I'm going to put a link in today's show notes to the Paycheck Checkup site on the IRS website. It's really simple. You just need some basic information in front of you. It's actually really nice. The site does not save your information, and therefore there's not like the security risk of having to put in your social security number and other personally identifiable information. Okay. But here's what you do need. Let's see. You're going to gather your most recent pay stubs. You're going to have your most recent income tax return handy. That's important. So you want a copy of your completed Form 1040, and that's going to, from the prior year, and that's going to help you estimate your income and other characteristics, and it will speed up the process for you. So that's really it. That's really all you need. Okay. So why do you want to check? You want to check this to avoid a tax bill surprise next year. And you want to check it to ensure your withholding is at the right level. Now, who should check? Basically, almost everyone, okay? Anyone who had a change in income or a change in status. So a new child, a new dependent, marriage, divorce, a shift from taking the standard deduction to itemized deductions. Or if you owed money on your last tax return, that's a good reason to adjust your withholding. Maybe your accountant told you you needed to file a new W-4 when they went and did your tax review last year and you forgot. Do it now. Do it now, okay? Better to do it now than to wait another several months and be even more screwed up when it comes to April. You have some time to catch it. And if you weren't happy with the size of last year's refund, that's another reason to do it. Or if you switched jobs or got a new source of income, that's another reason to do it, okay? All right, so basically you're just going to go to this website and you're going to, using the information that the IRS prompts you from last year's tax return and from current pay stubs that you have, you're going to go through the dialogue. It just will take you about 15 minutes and you're just going to go through and you're going to answer those questions. And basically what you're doing is you're going to tell it, how big of a refund you want, or if you want zero refund, you work from that number backwards. And it will tell you how much you should be withholding from each pay stub now in order to achieve that desired result. Okay. Now, one little caveat here. is that if 100% of your household income is freelance income or sole proprietor income, and you have no W-2, so neither you nor your spouse has a W-2, then I'm going to have to link you to IRS publication 505, and it has instructions for how you can handle things. Unfortunately, that's going to mean that you don't have payroll and you don't have any automated way to be having withholding, so you can't file a W-4. And of course, that's the whole purpose of my program, Money Bootcamp. It is to help you set up your bookkeeping so you know what your profit actually is, calculate that profit, calculate the taxes owed, and then Money Bootcamp teaches you, of course, how to make those, calculate and pay those estimated quarterly tax payments. So if your income is 100% self-employed income, you have no choice but to do bookkeeping and to pay your taxes quarterly using the estimated quarterly tax system. I have lots of other podcast episodes on that. And of course, my program, Money Bootcamp, really walks you through that at a really great, empathetic, but at a good level of detail so that you can get that done. Okay. All right. So for those of you who do have a W-2 or are married to somebody who has a W-2, it's a good time of year right now to do a paycheck checkup. Look in the show notes for that link to that paycheck checkup. It will take you just 15 minutes of life. And remember, you need your tax return and you need a couple of pay stubs, recent pay stubs. And that's it. 15 minutes and you will save yourself a whole bunch of headache several months from now. So this is my little gift to future you that I encourage you to take. All right. I will talk to you on the next one. Bye. Thank you for listening. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe, leave a review. It really helps, and share it with a friend. I'm so grateful. This podcast is for education and entertainment only. Nothing in this episode should be taken as individual tax or financial advice. You can find all the tools, books, and links we reference at sunlighttax.com/podcast.